All right, and for our welcome to Ask an Athlete. I'm Corey with the Suffolk Public Library, and joining me today is Clint Wright. Clint, will you introduce yourself?
How you doing? My name is Clint Wright. I currently attend Georgia and Court University in Lakewood, New Jersey. Sorry. I am a sophomore and I play basketball.
All right, and also joining us is Derek Wright. Hey,
Good
Derek.
deal, good deal. How you
Uh,
doing today?
doing good. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Trying to change my, there we go. Background there. What's up, bro?
So what's up? What's up?
Cool. So, Derek, can you introduce yourself real quick? Just who you are and what school you go to and what sport you play.
Oh wow, yeah, most definitely. It's been a while since I had to do this. I'm currently, who I am, Derek Wright. I attended Kings Fork High School. Went on to attend Towson University after graduating from Kings Fork. Transferred to CNU in 2012 and got my undergrad in marketing from Christopher Newport University. And I'm currently at Liberty University pursuing my master's in social media management.
Oh, cool.
Yes, indeed.
So like I was telling Clint just a minute ago, basically I have just a list of questions here. I'm gonna sort of go through just about like your experiences doing sports in college. So this program is aimed at teens that are interested in pursuing sports in college themselves, and so just wanted to get like a couple different perspectives to share with them. So my first question, I guess, I would ask is, how did you balance doing sports along with your schoolwork and like maintaining the social life? How did you like balance all that stuff together?
You want me to go first, or you want Derek to go first?
Clint, if you want to go first, yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, you
So.
more, yeah.
So what?
I say, yeah, you dealing with it right now. You go first, young man.
Yeah. So basically, I had to get like a journal or like something I can like put my assignments and stuff down so that I can be able to know what stuff I have to do for my homework, and I also have something for my basketball stuff like my practices, lifting, working out. So basically, I try writing down more stuff. So I can see, like I'm a visual learner, so I want to see what I have to do, and then I'm able to do it like that.
Okay, cool. How about you, Derek?
Most definitely, just piggybacking off of Clint. I've always been a checklist, type person. Mentally, it makes me feel better when I write something on the list and then I'm able to check it off. So that's just kind of one of those things that I've always just kind of gravitated towards. Helps me stay in order and keep everything in the way it should be. Just to take Clint's step a little bit further, what I try to do the day before is to go ahead and write down what I plan on doing the next day, or if I really ahead, maybe the next week, so I can kind of already know what I want to accomplish that week, and then I like to work backwards and say, okay, if I want to do this by next week, well, this is what I'm going to do, on Monday, and then Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then just kind of go from there. And each day, I found that it helped me with schoolwork. A lot of times you'll have papers, and sometimes you might procrastinate and have to finish that paper. But what helped me after my freshman year was I started working on little bits and pieces. Well, today I might do the introduction, and then tomorrow I might revise the introduction. Next day I'm working on the body, and just kind of going from there and making it into smaller pieces, so I don't feel as overwhelmed looking at the whole project.
Okay. Was there anything something you wish that you know now that you wish you knew when you started college?
Nah, you can answer that question. Go first.
You want me to answer that one? Oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
how much time you got?
Dude.
Wow. So to kind of give a little bit more into my background, I've been in life insurance for the last 5 years, since 2017. And I wish someone had told me back in high school about investing, about networking. I didn't understand the power of networking when I was in high school. I definitely understand it a lot more now, and you kind of wish you can be back in those scenarios. Like, man, if I could just talk with this person now, because I'm pretty sure they're successful, and just to piggyback and to be able to pick people's brains. Networking is definitely the lifeblood of business. But I wish I had learned about investing, and not only just from a monetary standpoint, but just from time management. You know, what you put your time in, that's ultimately is going to be how you're successful. And not to kind of brag on Clint, but I know what he does as far as training, because I train him. And for those who do have aspirations to be an athlete at the collegiate level, it's a lot of work. It is not something where you just, oh, I like doing this and I'm going to be successful. If you want to be successful at the collegiate level, you have to work, because everyone that's there is just as talented as you are. Everyone that's there was the best person on their high school team. They're the best person on their AAU team, wherever you came from. So I didn't know that, obviously coming in as a freshman, I thought, I was the man, which I was, but I was the man in my region, not necessarily um, on the team. So that was a huge learning curve for me, just kind of accepting the fact that, okay, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm at right now, and just figuring out how do I get that. But the biggest thing is just understanding that you have to work. There's no substitute for it. You just have to put the time in.
Like that. I would say something that I know now that I wish I would have knew was probably time management. I feel like it's definitely like Derek said, he used to work me out, and he knows some days I don't want to, like, might have to, whatever what sport you go through, basketball, football, any sport, that it's gonna be days where you don't want to do something. It's gonna be days where, yeah, I want to work out, but I feel like this bed feels better. So it's just time, like you said, time management, knowing that if you want to get to a certain goal, that you have to work for it. It's not going to be easy. Like Derek said, it's going to be whoever on your team. Like you said, you might think you're the best, but it's going to probably be somebody better than you. Somebody going to outworking you. So if you know your time, knowing what you need to do, know what things you have to do, you can make it to that next level.
Now, just asking real quick, did you guys grow up in Suffolk, or where were you guys from?
Yeah. You go ahead, Clint.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. Oh yeah, but Clint is 10 years younger than me. So when he was born, we were actually living in the Portsmouth area. But we've always went to school in Suffolk. Our mom has been working at Kings Ford Middle School. Wow. For a while. For a while. She's been there for a while. And before that, she was at the Suffolk YMCA, which is literally down the street. So I don't know what it is about Godwin Boulevard, but she loves it. So she's been there. Our family has always been around. Our family's still out there. So yeah, we've been in that area pretty much all our life. I'm currently now in Portsmouth, so expanding a little bit, but not too far from home.
But when you guys first went to college, do you guys have any like culture shock? Was like the community or anything different than Suffolk?
I'll go with that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Clint.
I feel like it definitely was a culture shock. I mean, just for me alone, I'm basically up north. I'm in New Jersey, so like a lot of people that I know or that I talk to right now, they're from like New York, Philadelphia, where else? Shoot, basically places that's up north, and it wasn't used to like my act. They say I got an accent. so I had to go through that. I had to go through the little jokes or whatever, but it's all funny jokes. So, but I feel like now that I'm getting into a little routine, so I feel like I made my, I adjusted, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's definitely was a culture shock when I first got here, though. Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely. I think for me, because Clint and I played two different sports, so I know with him, he was able to kind of, well, not really so much because he came up during COVID, so nobody was really doing the freshman orientation and things like that. So he kind of had, just a schooling. But when I went to college originally at Towson, it was actually for football camp. So we were there June 28th. I remember we reported for camp, and there weren't any students until August 5th or whatever. So just adjusting to that, for one, being on a college campus, it was a lot bigger, obviously, than high school classes, just figuring out that whole dynamic. And then when school started, it was just like, whoa, there's, this influx of, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. You have to make sure that you're doing things, on time. And if your class starts at 1, that means you can't get on the shuttle at 12:50. So that was one thing that I really learned, just again, time management, all goes back to it. But those one of the biggest things I know. Well, yeah, you're from Southern, because the library. We don't really have public transportation like that. It travels within the city.
Yeah.
Going to the city, that was my first time getting a taxi cab and getting in on a bus and going to another city, or getting on the metro and things like that. So a lot of different experiences just on the public transit, and that's just something where giving advice of that, just keep your head down. If you're going somewhere, definitely go with a friend. I wouldn't recommend going alone, preferably somebody who's from that area, because if you do get lost, they can kind of guide you back, because I had to learn that lesson the hard way. So yeah, that's my
No,
little 2 cents there.
I'm with you there. When I was in college up in Rhode Island, I was on the bus one time and I missed my stop and was like a good 30-minute walk away.
Yeesh.
It's just one stop. I'm telling you, it'll throw you off. You be like, where am I? And all you're just one block. So it's crazy how stuff looks different for sure, especially if you don't know where you're going.
So another thing I was gonna ask, so when you're practicing and training, is there anything that you like to listen to? Do you listen to any music when you do it, or do you just does that distract you or anything, or what?
Oh nah. Anytime I go into the gym, I definitely have some type of music. I listen basically rap music. J. Cole, Kendrick, those people like that. So, but yeah, I definitely listen to music. I feel like the music kind of helps me get through the workout sometimes, because sometimes you don't want to hear yourself breathing. So you just gotta try to let the music tune that out. But yeah, that's what I do.
Most definitely. Same way. I like to have something. It might not always be rap, but just something with a nice beat. It just kind of depends on, my mood, really. Sometimes I'm in more, especially if I'm stretching, I might start off a little slower. And then as the workout goes on, there's no telling what I might be playing, just to, keep that intensity going. But just like Clint said, I have to have that music going, because it's always awkward when you're lifting, and then if your earbuds fall out and you hear yourself breathing, it's like, what is that? What in the world is going on? So you kind of stop, like, is that me? But just one of those things. But definitely have to have music to keep the rhythm going. And a lot of times too, going back to what Clint said, on those days when you really don't feel like working out, sometimes you can have that one song and it's like, oh man, I'm ready now. Or sometimes I might listen to a motivational speaker, and then that I don't usually listen to them while I'm working out, but prior, to kind of get that motivation, and then just take it from there.
What sacrifices did you have to make for to be on your team? Was there any sacrifices or anything you had to give up to keep going?
I would say sometimes you have to know when to hang out with friends, or know when to hang out with people and when to be alone. I feel like it's got to be a balance between those two, because sometimes your friends can be a distraction, and sometimes you just feel like you said, you should be working out at this certain time, but you hang with your friends, you're doing this, you're doing that, and sometimes you doing that the next person that you're trying to get to, that the level that you want to get to, they're working out and you're with your friends. So it's just yeah, like you said, it just has to be a balance between the two. But yeah, that's it.
Most definitely. I don't think I could have really said it better. I guess to add to the balance portion, as an athlete, and from going from high school to college, it's a level up. So again, the competition gets better, it's faster. the whole nine. And one thing that's always kind of stuck with me, I was watching a YouTube video of Kevin Garnett, um, and he was talking about how when he was when he was playing for Minnesota, he was on the West Coast. So when he worked out early, technically he was, working out before the other guys. But then when he came to Boston, he started working out even earlier because he's like, oh man, if I'm doing this, the guys on the West Coast, they're already. So just having that competitive spirit, um, sometimes as an athlete, especially, for ones who are blessed enough to get different offers and things like that, you have to have something to keep your edge, because that one day or that one drill that you don't do, somebody just did it twice, and then if you do that, if you let that add up every day, then now you're talking about, the difference between possibly going to have your dream fulfilled or it just being a dream. And now, you're doing whatever the case may be. So I think if there's any sacrifice, again, it goes back to time, understanding that, yes, I do want to hang out with friends, but I have some goals that I want to meet. Hang out with friends that are trying to get the same, similar goals. Because then, like Clint was saying, those days when you don't necessarily feel like working out, you can say, hey, man, look, I don't really feel like doing this, man. We have these dreams and they're reminding you of that. And then you're like, okay, I have to do it. So sometimes having that group camaraderie really helps. And having those people who are going to push you versus people who are going to pull you, in different directions. So I think that's all about the environment that you're in and just the people that you're around and your support system for sure.
That kind of leads into my next question. So what was it like being part of a team, like the pros and cons of it? Like you just mentioned, like it helped boosting each other up. Is there any other like pluses that like you enjoyed about that?
Want to take that one, Claire? You want me to start? You want me to go?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
yeah,
start.
I got you. So for me, going into the pros, I think once you get accustomed to playing on a team, once you start playing, especially I was blessed to play a lot of competitive games, to play against a lot of talented people. So as you go through those battles or wars, if you will, you create brothers, you create a family that your mom didn't necessarily, your mom didn't have that son, but that's your brother. You still look at him as your family or your teammate. So that's one of the things that really, to this day, I still gravitate towards. I'm a coach now. So that's just one of the things that I've always loved about team sports is that it does take a collective group of people to come together. And a lot of times those people have different beliefs, different lifestyles, different interests. They have all these different things, but there's one common goal, and that's to want to win a championship. So I think that that's one of the things that really, really to this day gets me going. I tell Clint all the time, your best game is your next game. It's not anything that you've done in the past. It's actually the next game that you're going to play is the best one. And I feel that way about coaching. The next game that I coach is going to be the best game that I ever coach because that's how hard I'm going to go. That's how much energy I'm going to put in. And I think that only sports is one of the few instances where you can do that, where you can really just put that time in and it affect another group. And sometimes you may not get the pats on the backs and things of that nature, but you have those moments. It always comes back. I could definitely say that. So that's one of the great things about sports. I guess you could say, I don't really have too many cons. You have to be accountable. I don't know if, that might be something that, a lot of maybe people don't want to do. You do have to be accountable for somebody outside of yourself. One thing I didn't enjoy was the early morning workouts. Oh my goodness. I was not a fan of those. Looking back, I'm appreciative that I did it because now I know if there's any early meeting or anything like that, I'm like, oh, I did this in college. So, I have that experience. Yes, I can say that. So that is, taking a negative, turn into a positive. But waking up at 5 a.m. is not fun. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're about to do. It's never warm. And it just doesn't, it usually doesn't feel good. But, those are some of the things kind of going back to what I originally said. When you graduate and when you move on, you can be like, hey, man, you remember when we had to do that running, or you remember when you did this workout and, this, that, and the third. So things like that, those are the memories, those are the bonds that you create there aren't too many other things that you can really get that besides the sports.
I feel like you couldn't have said that any better. Like you said, when the pros, like building that chemistry with building brotherhood, long-term relationships, just everything really, honestly. With the cons, I would say it's not going to be easy.
Yeah,
it's going to be times where it's going to be disagreements between teammates, coaches, anybody really. But I feel like to have a solution for that, you just have to agree to disagree, or try to come to some type of plan. Try to talk to that person. Try to be upfront with that person, so that one problem doesn't cause a problem later in the season. When
sure.
if you solve it, if you live it right now, then it's like, okay, I understood where you come from. I understood where he came from. Now let's come together and let's make it. Now, even though we went through that, we're still together. We're still strong. And honestly, it would probably make you stronger. Honestly, with adversity. So my dad always said adversity is the greatest teacher. So yes, sir.
For sure.
Can you talk a little bit about like what like your workout plan and like what nutrition you do? Like how often do you like work out and stuff like that? Like,
I usually try to work out in the morning and at night, because usually we have practice. Or usually have practice. I have class around like the early morning, so like 9ish to around 1, 2 area. So, and we usually probably have practice after. We have practice after class. So I try to get up early in the morning around 7, 8. Try to get a little hour workout in. Then, of course, to conclude the day, I try to work out. That's basically it. That's my only routine. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty much doing not twice a day, but usually once a day I have a workout. I'm coaching now, so they say those who do, they do, and those who don't, they coach. So I'm in the I'm in the do but doesn't do like he did. I'm coaching, but I still got to get that time. And like I said, I'm still a competitor. I still feel like I can beat Clint one-on-one. It rarely happens, but hey, that's just me, and I don't care. And he knows I'll talk trash to him like I'm winning. That's just what it is, and that's how I'm always going to be. I'm a competitor, and I think that as you're an athlete, that's just something that you want to do. You just want to compete, and then even when you're not necessarily done, because I'm still coaching, but even when your playing days aren't necessarily there anymore, and now you want to be able to give back. And I think that's one of the biggest drives for me staying in shape, is to be able to hand those lessons out on the court.
Well, my last question is basically where do you guys see yourself going in the future? Like I know Derek, you said that you're like going for your master's now. What's your plan going forward?
Oh, most definitely. One of the to kind of give you some context, one of the reasons I really wanted to do this interview, and really wanted to speak with you, is because my cousin and I started a nonprofit. That's what this shirt is, Right Path Outreach. We started a nonprofit back in 2018, and it's geared towards youth. And it's also geared towards helping others as well. But a lot of the lessons and programs that we have is geared towards youth. And one of the things that you said kind of stuck out to me was the fact that you have people who are athletes and they want to go to the next level, but a lot of times they want to see, what does that look like? Get some feedback. So for me, this was a great opportunity, because I want to be able to connect with those and let them know, for one, as far as divisions, you have a Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. Doesn't matter what division you're in, you just want to play collegiate. I talk to a lot of students, and they'll say, "Oh, I want to go D1. I want to play D1." And it's like, I played D1. Trust me, you have to. It's a level. It's levels to what you're trying to do. You want to go to a team that a year or two you can now play. I didn't really understand that, going when I really originally went to college. But now, outside looking in, that's my advice to someone when they say, "Oh, what school should I look at?" Well, where are you going to play the quickest? That's the school that you kind of want to look at. Of course, academics, that's standard. That's got to be there anyway. But as far as if we're saying, okay, now we're looking at athletics, where are you going to be able to play, in a year, 2 years, that's going to be able to help you. And that's some of the things that I do. But to answer your question, I'm currently a life coach. So I've been dealing and I'm doing mentorship actually for the last 5 years. I just got licensed for actual life coaching this year. I've been doing that. And also, like I said, I'm a life insurance agent. And one of the things that I like to do is to be able to help not only families, but to be able to help those 18, 19, 20-year-olds understand the benefits of investing. Again, if I had known that when I was in college, like Clint knows it now, he already knows that his trajectory once he graduates is going to be a lot higher financially than mine would have been, just because of time. It's not because he's better than me. It's not because of anything else. It's just because he was born after me and he has 10 years to the good. So he's going to be able to use that, to his advantage. So that's really, I guess it's my present goal, but it's what I want to do for the future, is to be able to really teach financial literacy. A lot of times our community, we rely so much on an athletic scholarship. Oh, I want to play sports. I want to do this. That's perfectly fine. I think that's great. I did it, so it can be done. But my goal furthermore would be to say, not only do you want to be athletically fit, but you want to be financially fit. You want to be mentally fit. You want to have all these things going together, because one day that ball isn't going to bounce. One day, you won't have that step on the football field. So now you have to figure out real life situations, and it's better to be proactive with that, and kind of how we talked about taking in chunks, instead of, oh, now I'm an adult, now I have to adult and do all these different things, and you're kind of behind the 8 ball, if you will. So that's really my main goal from wanting to be a part of this interview, is to not only be able to help those athletes get to college, but even after college and even careers and all the things. I want to be able to be a resource, and to be able to help them out, even if it's not, they might not want to be a financial insurance agent. I have friends who are in the entertainment business. I have a friend who knows how to get your TWIC card. So there are a lot of different specialties and different talents and different things that everyone has. Whatever it is you want to be, I want to be able to help you get from, okay, here you are, now let's get you to your goal, so that we can be able to, create generational wealth and things of that nature. So that's really my all-encompassing goal.
That's awesome. Very good.
Yes, indeed.
By God's grace, I want to make it professionally for basketball, for the sport that I play. But currently, I am pursuing my bachelor's in marketing, so I'll be doing that, and hopefully I can market for my brother and his nonprofit business, and be able to, do the things that he's doing, and be able to provide for the community and stuff like that. And basically, Derek, he took the cake. He finished that one. I can't even. Yeah.
You did exactly what you said, and you gave God the grace. So you already know that's already done. But no, that's that's for sure. That's for sure. And you already know you got a job. I don't know why you said hopefully. As long as God keep me here, then you good to go. So that's one of the things that I wanted to do, is not just for Clint. When I look at the seniors that are at Lakeland right now, which is where he graduated from, I want to be able to bring them in and do the same exact thing. It might not be as close, because obviously that's my brother. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to build rapport, but if there's someone who's looking for, opportunity, then I'll definitely be able to teach them and go from there.
Cool. So, anything else you guys want to say about the experience that you guys had in college, currently, past, anything else you want to say to kids, or my kids, to teens, I guess?
I'll just say, take it a day at a time. Try not to think too much into the future, because like I said before, it's going to be ups and downs. It's going to be good days, bad days. You're going to have those times where you don't want to do anything, but just take it a day at a time. Try to win every day. Try to get 1% better. And that's all I got.
No, that's good, Clint. Just when you said that, I was thinking of just being patient. That's one of the things that I really think is a key virtue. Because I know I was even watching a show about this, and it was talking about how kid, he was great in high school, went to college, and everybody's good. And now he's like, man, I'm not going to the NFL. Where you still have that opportunity, but you're a freshman. It takes 4 years through college, so it's a progress. It's not a one, time. Not too many football players, not even a lot of basketball players now go one and done. And then when you think about just the amount of opportunity there is, you have to be patient because honestly, if you go quick, the career is probably going to be quick. But if it takes some time, you have to really work for it. Then when you get there, you'd be like, man, this is what I did to get here. Now, because you had to earn it, you're probably going to want to keep it that way and want to continue to work hard. So that would really be my biggest thing, just honing your craft, not necessarily, don't be so, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't be so, don't gravitate as much to social media because everything on social media isn't necessarily true. A lot of that is perception, a lot of it is bias, a lot of it is opinion. If you are talented and if you put the time in and you get in front of coaches, then you'll be able to get recruited and you'll be able to have that process. But sometimes I hear and people think that, I have to be on a certain team or I have to be, a certain way to get looked. If you're talented and you're doing what you're supposed to do, it takes care of itself. But it's a process. It's not. You have to be patient. I had to be patient when I went through my process. Clint had to do the same exact thing. And again, it went back to in his final decision. It came to, well, okay, where can we go that we know that you're going to be able to play, within the next year or so. And it might be 2 years, whatever the case may be. You have to put that time in. And you have to do it. There is no secret formula. There's nothing you can order on Amazon that's gonna come in a day. I checked, it doesn't work. It just doesn't happen that way. You have to put that time in and have to work for it. And lastly, I just kind of want to reiterate because I hear it so much. Don't get so caught up in the division that you're going to. There's a saying that I always hear is how's it go? Your current destination, your current situation is not your final destination. So just because you're at a Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, Division 1 AA, whatever the case may be, just because you go Division 1 doesn't mean you're going to go to the pros. Just because you don't go Division 3 doesn't mean that you're not going to go to the pro. It's really all about the time that you put in. It's about the connections that you make, how you market yourself. It's a lot more that goes into it. And I think that the more information that can be gathered, then you can make more informed decisions. So that's really it. I'll leave that there.
Well, thanks again, guys. I appreciate you guys taking some time out and speaking with me about this. It's very informative to me, and I hope the teams that watch also find it informative and helpful. But yeah, thanks again. All right, I'm here for another Ask an Athlete session, and I'm joined by Joel Fleck. Do you mind saying a little bit about yourself?
Not a problem. My name is Joel Fleck. I'm a lawyer in California, former high school and college athlete. Now we're here.
Cool. So my first question for you is about your college experience, like when you were doing baseball in school. How did you balance it? Do you have any advice for like juggling sports and academics?
Well, my first advice is you have to balance it. A lot of people I know didn't even finish their degrees, and they would just drop out once their sports, career finished. From my perspective, that's a mistake, obviously. And in my case, what ended up happening is, as a pitcher, I went through it all. In my junior year, I threw, low to mid 90s. I was looking at getting drafted. I had teams that were all interested. And then when I came back for my senior year, I blew out my arm. And I had surgery to try and repair it. And then it never worked the same again. So if I would have put all of my eggs into that basket, I don't know what would have happened in my life, but obviously after all that happened, I came home and I went to law school and now I'm a lawyer. So you always have to have that backup plan. So if you think that you're going to be a professional athlete, it's all going to work out, it's not going to all the time. And while I hope it does for you, you always want to balance your school stuff so that you have good grades and you can have other options available to you at all times.
What is one of the biggest challenges that you faced during school?
From a sports perspective or from a school perspective?
Both.
Okay, so from a sports perspective, obviously, it was blowing up my arm, having to go through rehab, surgery, try and come back, the whole thing. That 5th year was very trying, going from basically a very high level athlete to essentially not being able to do it anymore, which was very disappointing. From a school perspective, it's basically what we just talked about. You're always balancing the competing interest of, your coaches and everyone wants you to, work out in the morning and do all these things that aren't school related. So, from on a bus trying to study or trying to study it late at night or not getting enough rest and then having everything sort of fall apart for that quiz the next day. That's the biggest sort of obstacle that you have to overcome. To the extent that there was times where, I'm a good student, and there was times where I was behind and, getting very poor grades in certain classes because they weighted it so heavily towards, schoolwork or tests, one or the other. I actually remember a specific case where it was weighted towards one paper and I blew it off to the last minute, and I didn't get a failing grade, but I got like a D on that paper for midterms, and that was the only grade that I had. So they were talking about putting me on, athletic probation because I had messed up this one paper because we had a 3-day road trip right before it was due, and I just didn't get it done. So the biggest challenge in those cases is getting it all done and juggling it. But that's good training for real life because after college, you're going to be juggling everything in the world too.
So when you went to school, I believe when I talked to Ashley, she said that you got a full scholarship, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. I had a number of options out here in California, and then I took a I forget what they call it, but essentially they paid for my housing and academics in Nebraska.
Was there like a big culture shock when you moved to Nebraska? Was it what you expected, or?
It wasn't a culture shock because the particular school I went to was sort of a smaller school, but what they did is they essentially imported all of their athletes. So my Nebraska baseball team was still 85%, college, athletes from California and the West Pacific Northwest, basically was all of us. So that wasn't a culture shock, but what I can tell you, it was a climate shock because I went from sunny California all the time to Nebraska gets 4 seasons. So there was I pitched a baseball game in 19 degrees with snow falling everywhere, and that was definitely a shock. And trying to drive in ice and snow for the first time, so there's always going to be some weird, shocking developments that you have to get used to in college if you go somewhere else.
So was that your so when you chose to go to that school, was it specifically because of the scholarship, or was there anything else about the school that caught your attention, I guess?
No, it was pretty much the only thing that I liked was the scholarship. I guess initially the only thing I liked. Eventually, I liked a number of things there. But originally, I was supposed to go to St. Mary's, out here in California, and the price tag on it was $50,000 a year, and they were offering me 2/3 of a scholarship. But I didn't want to leverage my financial freedom, in the future if I didn't end up playing professional sports. So I wanted to sort of go with the full ride and have nothing going on. And I actually continued that to law school. I chose a small law school in Northern California, and I worked construction through it. So when I graduated law school, due to my scholarship for undergrad and paying my way through law school piecemeal, I basically graduated law school with no debt in my life, which was a huge benefit to me and basically the plan from the beginning. So that's ultimately why I chose to go with that full scholarship to it's called York College in Nebraska.
This is sort of off topic, but Ashley did mention that like when you were going into law school, like you were doing is the mini house? Is that what it's called? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's called a tiny house.
Yeah.
I'm looking up at my wall because I have a newspaper article hanging on the wall of my law office, and it's from when I lived at the fair in my tiny house. So, and that was during law school. But yeah, I built a house on a trailer. It was in my parents' yard for a while, and then now due to all of these, essentially what we've been talking about, no debt through undergrad, law school, and all of those things, and having a tiny house, I ended up buying a piece of property here in California, and it now lives on it, and I have a fixer-upper and the whole thing. So that goes back to sort of my strategy throughout this whole mess. But my tiny house is fun.
So and so you went to law school. What sort of law do you teach now, or not teach? What sort of law do you practice now?
Not yet teaching. I practice civil litigation, so I do any number of things from personal injury or contract disputes. I do a little bit of employment work. Lately, I've actually been getting known as willing to jump into restraining order cases that involve constitutional freedoms, which is a bizarre phenomenon because we have all these rules relating when you can get restraining orders against people, but at the same time you have free speech rights. So I've been taking on a number of those cases that, again, a lot of people around here aren't willing to take because they're not very lucrative. But again, going back to what we talked about before, having no debt and not as much overhead as a lot of lawyers, I can sort of do projects that I want, and they're fascinating.
Is there any advice you would say? So you mentioned about like the no debt. Like, is there any any strategies to like for finding better colleges, cheaper colleges when you're doing that?
I think a lot of it involved, especially in my case, getting to know people, especially as an athlete, right? So coaches, going to tryouts and sort of open field days for me was big. And I sort of got who I was out there to a number of people. But it's all coaches and community based. So the more people you know in there playing travel ball or a wide variety of teams, if you only know the same people, you don't get outside of that. So the way I got to Nebraska was I went to I played AAU, and the AAU teams I played against, I beat a number of them from down there to St. Mary's area. So the St. Mary's coach took a call from my coach regarding me going to college there. And ultimately, I didn't choose them, but since those two coaches knew me and sort of were willing to go to bat for me, that's how I got to the Midwest, because they started sending out my information to other people that they knew from their connections. And so it's all the same community, it's all the same people, they all talk to each other, and they all need more bodies and more talent coming through because you're only there for so many years. So the more you can get yourself out there to a wider variety of coaches and people, the better for you in that respect.
Do you have any like fond memories or like negative memories about like being part of a team, like when you were playing baseball? Like, was there anything about that that like carried through to your life now, or?
Fond memories. I mean, I still keep in contact with a lot of the people I played with and individuals I know. Not specifically from college, but the sister of somebody I played, I think 13-year-old baseball out here is actually, called me up and needed help with a legal matter. So, the memories you make along the way and the people that you meet are really what it is. And that's very cliche of me to say, but again, it goes back to, you're not going to be an athlete forever. I wish you the best luck. And Tom Brady just retired at 40 whatever because he's made it that long. But you're always going to want to have that connection to the community, knowing everybody, and that's what's going to be the benefit. So, going back to your question, I guess, fondest memories. I spent a lot of time driving in the Midwest because we drive from place to place to play baseball. And some of my fondest memories are like listening to, back then there was actual iPods, and just watching sort of like America go past. Like, because I'm from California, we have all these, oceans and mountains and all these things. And out there, I just vividly remember driving through, cornfields and water towers and the sun setting and all of these things. And at those times, we're on a bus. I'm surrounded by everybody in the world I cared about at that point. And so that's something I sort of hold on to as like a idyllic time in my life when like nothing else really mattered. We just played baseball and drove around, and it was what it is. So very fond memory there.
So what got you into playing baseball?
Well, my old man pitched fast pitch softball as I was growing up. So he, obviously that was sort of in my lifeblood, but he also didn't allow me to play other sports. Like I wasn't allowed to play football because it was too dangerous. And nothing else really appealed to me. And I remember being very small and liking throwing the ball. I didn't care about hitting the ball or any of that stuff. I just wanted to throw it. And all I knew is I wanted to throw it hard. And so I eventually grew, I'm like 6'4". When I played baseball, I was like 240. So that's all I wanted to do is just throw as hard as I could at all times. And so it worked out because I was around the game through my old man playing softball. And I sort of developed a love for, it's a team sport, but you're not on a team as a pitcher, sort of, because you're sort of in your own world. You get to control it. You're sort of the head of the spear because the ball's always in your hand. So I like the aspect of you get to control your destiny to some point, but you're still on a team and they're there to help you and you're there to help them. So I really like the interaction of those two ideas.
What was practice like? Like how much practicing did you guys have to do? Like what was the training schedule like?
There's a lot of practice. There's a lot of training. So generally what we would do is we'd report before school would start. So you'd have a couple weeks before school where you're sort of moving in, but during that time, there's no classes. So we would have 3-a-days. You'd get up in the morning, we would generally run in the mornings and then lift in the afternoons. And then you'd have regular practice at, in the evening-ish. But then when school actually started, we would work out in the mornings 3 days a week, and then you'd have practice every day after class for 3 or 4 hours, usually about 3. And then weekends you would have either off or you'd be doing something else. So it's a pretty grueling schedule. Even during season, we would still practice every day. The weightlifting would be reduced because they don't want to tire you out too much. But off season, there is, no matter what school or program you go to, there's going to be a considerable amount of time that you're either on the field or doing something else to prepare yourself for on the field. So if I had to ballpark it on a week outside of season, for like 30 hours a week of baseball time. So it's a lot.
That is.
And that's not even including things like they're overseeing, what you're eating, and your study hall times. And so basically you, as a, higher end college athlete, you're eating, sleeping, and living that sport. And then they're also telling you that you have to go to school at the same time.
Is there, so how do you feel like, because the way like you're kind of describing it, like a lot of your life is like regimented and controlled, like was it hard to like adjust to that, or like were you like just like rolling with it, or like?
I'm pretty laid back, so I sort of rolled with it. It was, in some ways, it was nice to have the structure because you can't play too far outside the structure when it's there, right? You have certain times where you got to do, weightlifting in the morning, then you go to class, then you go to, I would remember vividly that people would try and sleep between class and afternoon lifting, or afternoon practice. So you would get to the field and people would be like sleeping in their cars for like 15 minutes, like very minimal amounts of time. But on the other hand, it sort of has a weird reverberation because it's so regimented, and then all of a sudden, Saturday nights you're just free, and then people would just go nuts. And we lived in a small town, so there wasn't all that much to do, but people would drive to the city and just go, you got to let off some steam. So there's times for both, right? You're doing things, it's very highly regimented, but it can't be that way all the time. So you have to have some breaks and some other things that sort of clear your mind and let you do whatever. And everybody realizes that, so they understand that's going to happen, and it's a good thing for everybody.
Is there anything like at the end of like your college career, was there anything that like you wish you knew going into it?
I wish I would have known how short it would be. And that feels weird because my college career was 5 years with the surgery and trying to go back. And in the moment, I can vividly remember my first few years feeling like I'd been there forever and we're doing the same things every day and it's just a grind and all those things. But now looking back at it, it basically just flew past. Like even just hours of driving around, going from place to place. In that moment, it feels like it's so long, but now it's just a drop in the bucket of time. So you got to really make use of that time because it's going to be gone here before you know it. I'm 33 years old now, and I went to college at 17, so that was 16 years ago. And it feels like forever ago, this small moment of my life, which it was and it wasn't at the same time.
Let's see, those pretty much most of the questions I had. Was there anything you wanted to say, like any like sort of closing things?
Sort of going back to like my one regret I have is I went to school in the Midwest and I lost touch with a lot of people back home during that 5 years. Friends, family, everything. If you end up going away to school, make sure that you sort of keep in contact with those people because it's a short amount of time, but it's also a long amount of time. While I was away at college, my mom got breast cancer, and I was kind of a shitty son, and didn't check in or do anything as much as I could, and I regret that now because I was so far away and sort of in my own little world. So if you go away and understand that this is your job essentially, and you're doing it, but don't lose track of what's really important, and try and keep in contact with those you love at home.
That's cool. That's cool. So, well, again, I do appreciate you taking the time out and chatting with me. I may reach out to you again because, like, me and Ashley were talking about like tiny houses, and we may do like something with that later in the summer. But
yeah.
So,
I took a phone call the other day from a lawyer, and it was like one of those things where I was like, why is this? I didn't know who they were. They just cold called my law office. And she was like, oh, I actually have a radio program down in the Bay Area, and I do tiny houses. And someone told me you are a lawyer, so I'm calling you about tiny houses. And I was like, okay. So, there a lot of people reach out to me about tiny houses, which is very strange. So if you and Ashley want to chat about it, I got stories, I got people, I know them all.
Cool. I appreciate it. So you have a good afternoon, Joel. Thanks again.
You as well.